Happy Independence Day, everyone.
Yeah.
Hoorah. Thanks, Carol. You know, what an incredible sight as I look out here. You know, we're surrounded by family and friends, and we're truly gathered here on historic ground. And we have reminders of that just yards away. You know, over here you see the cannons that General Henry Knox brought through here en route to Boston in that first winter of our revolution that helped break the siege in Boston. Came right through Kinderhook. And over here, just yards away to my left, and in fact also prominently displayed on the float, you see Martin Van Buren, 8th President of the United States of America, fervent believer in us, we the people, limited government. He was an advocate. You know, we are a blessed people. We live in an incredible village and an exceptional nation. A nation that was founded upon the principle of limited government and the idea of freedom. You know, when you think about, in this day and age, where we often pass complex laws over 2,000 pages, that it was 234 years ago on this day, 55 of the leading individuals in our country got together, and they proclaimed our independence on this single page. On this single page right here, this Declaration of Independence, you see beauty, you see simplicity, and you see clarity. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure these rights, governments are constituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, we the people. We the people. You know, radical ideas like that don't just happen. They have to be defended. And we fought a war with the greatest superpower known to mankind in those times, against Great Britain. And they mocked us. They mocked us and really underestimated us. And we prevailed in that war. And even after securing our liberty, we didn't earn the respect of those in Europe. They really thought that we were going to fail. They thought that this experiment would never work because we had no king, we had no queen, and we had no aristocracy. But you know what we did have? We had freedom. We had belief in one another. You know, you can't, when you look at it from the perspective of Europe, you can understand why they thought that way. That had been the history of the world up until that moment. And you think about another country that promulgated their freedom in 1793 in France, breaking away from monarchy. Yet that experiment failed. And so when 1819 rolled along and we were still free, the leaders, the head of Europe, all got together and said, why is that working out over there? How come that America, we thought that they were going to be begging for us to come back. So they found the smartest guy that they could get, in Alex de Tocqueville. And they sent him over here to study and figure out what was going on. And when de Tocqueville came here, he went native. He loved this land. And he loved our people. And he came back and he reported to the heads of Europe and he said, you know what? First thing is this country's going to work out. The second thing is this country is going to rise to be the greatest country ever known to mankind. And that's because of what they fundamentally believe in. They believe in individuals, families, and communities, the strength of America, the voluntary organizations, and belief in God. That's what de Tocqueville wrote about. And we went on to fulfill that destiny. We went on to be the greatest nation the world has ever known. Now, yes, indeed, we are in troubled times. And you look out here, even in the village of Kinderhook, where I grew up, in a village that used to be bustling with economic activity and stores that were filled and doing well, we know that these are tough times. But you know what? In America, we've been in tough times before. You think about Valley Forge, you think about the Depression, you think about the early years of World War II when we were attacked by Japan. We came through those tough times. We know that when we make the right choices, our best days are still in front of us. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. Our country is beginning renewal. And we're looking to be part of that. You know, I want to leave with you one last message. And that is on our day that we think about our independence, that we also remember those who serve us, our men and women in uniform overseas fighting on our behalf of our freedom, our firemen, our policemen, our first responders. You know, we think of them. I do want to share with you a story. A young man named Chris Pusateri. Chris worked in my battalion. He was in the 2nd Battalion of the 325. That's an airborne infantry battalion in the 82nd. Chris was a fun-loving, great guy. Typified many young Americans. And you know, in the fall of 2004, you know, Chris came up to me and he was interested in knowing about Fort Drum. We were serving in North Carolina at the time. But he, being an avid outdoorsman, he was interested in potentially re-enlisting to go to Fort Drum so he could hunt with his buddies on weekend. He said he'd heard enough of folks talking about hunting in North Carolina. He called those dogs. They weren't anything the size of the deer back home in New York. I told him about Fort Drum, having served there before, and Chris re-enlisted to go to Fort Drum. Except for the fact that several weeks later we received orders to go to Iraq. Chris's orders to go to Fort Drum were to take place in the spring of 2005. And Chris asked for a delay in his report date because he did not want his buddies to go to war and have him not be with them. And so that came through the chain of command and I approved his delay. Chris was always there for his buddies. And his last day on earth was no different. In February of 2005, we were fighting a very aggressive Al-Qaeda cell in Mosul. And on that day, we had a big gunfight break out. Chris was actually resting at the time, having spent the night standing watch. But he came to, got out of his sleeping bag, put his battle rattle on, and moved to his fighting position to help his buddy. And at that time, we had an armor-piercing incendiary round go through a block of cement, hit the butt of his weapon, and that round entered his chin and eventually moved to the back of his head and pressured his skull and brain. We did everything we could to save Chris Pusateri, but we lost him on that day. We lost him. You know, Chris Pusateri, he represented all that was good in America. He was born on the 4th of July of 1983. And today, he would have been 27. And so I ask, as you move about with your family and friends at barbecues and enjoy the freedom that we have, the birthright of being Americans, that you remember folks like Chris Pusateri. And you thank all those who serve us today, the men and women that protect our freedoms. It's been an honor to be with you. God bless you. Happy Independence Day.